Hello and welcome to Boomer Live. Today we are here to talk about India versus South Africa, which just got over. What a game it was! India won by 92 runs, and it was a huge margin. Maybe one would have never anticipated that at the start of the first innings because India got off to a very shaky start. And from there on, it was Dinesh Karthik and Hardik Pandya who helped India to reach a very good total. India scored 169, setting a target of 170 to win for South Africa, and India was in driving seat, controlling it. I'm just sorry, it was 82 runs victory. I'm just correcting that again. But yeah, nonetheless, it's a big victory, and India will be pretty pleased that they are able to level the series. One would have never imagined that at the end of the second T20I, that India would be coming back so strong in the series. Now it is all going to be set up in Bangalore, in Chinnaswamy, where these two teams are going to lock horns for the decider. Sandeep, what a series we have had! What a turnaround, right?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, to start off with, this was I think, the eighth consecutive game where South Africa won the toss against India this year itself.
Yeah.
I mean, four
Wow.
T20Is, and then before that, I think all the ODIs and I think the last few
One of the
tests.
test
So
match. Yeah.
yeah, definitely the bad luck of Virat Kohli at the tosses has been continued by Rishabh Pant. Uh, so they have not been winning the tosses. But apart from that, I think it was a very clinical performance, another very clinical display from the Indians. I haven't seen Rajkot give such a wicket where something is assisting the bowlers. I mean, traditionally we have always had Rajkot. We always know Rajkot to be these flat tracks where a lot of runs are scored,
Yeah.
and this was definitely not that wicket. I felt 140, 145, 150 would have been a very good score, but thanks to Dinesh Karthik and Hardik Pandya for persisting till the 15th over, and after the 15th over, the two of them looked completely different. More so,
Right.
Dinesh Karthik bringing up his first T20I half century. I mean, 16 years playing international cricket for 16 years and finally getting to your first T20I half century really means something for, and that too in a match winning game. Definitely the deciding factor was that partnership between Dinesh Karthik and Hardik Pandya. And I would also say that partnership between Hardik Pandya and Rishabh Pant. Had India lost another wicket after they lost Ishan Kishan, I think things would have been different.
Sandeep, I think we're facing slight issue from your end when it comes to connection. I think you can rejoin again, but definitely I'll put a point out there. It was rightly mentioned by Sandeep Mani that how important a game this was for India. Under pressure for Dinesh Karthik to come and own the stage and take the attack to the opposition, that was a turning point. We've been talking about Dinesh Karthik for a very long period of time since the start of the IPL. We've been praising him for the efforts he's putting in, the range he's been showing to take on the pace ballers towards the death overs, and also to help teams pose very good targets. We have seen that with RCB as well. He was a vital cog which helped RCB to win many matches, and he was one of the instrumental part of RCB qualifying for playoffs as well, because he helped RCB from these kind of positions very often. If you look back in the IPL as well, and you're seeing a different version of Dinesh Karthik. Is very clear with the role what he has to play, and that's you have to give credit to that role clarity Indian team management has also given him, because we've seen that with Dinesh Karthik over the years that he gets those opportunities, but there is no role clarity with him, and he gets ousted out of the team very soon. And now there's a clear role clarity, and he's been able to deliver that with perfection, and that's where you could admire the mentality which is shown by Dinesh Karthik, the player, isn't it? But let's talk about the batting at large, right? 80 for 4, it is never going to be easy to post any total, and people were skeptical as to what could be a good total on this pitch. If I remember, at the end of the 10th over, Sunil Gavaskar did mention in the commentary box that 160 would be a very good score on this track, considering the pace, considering the variable bounce it was offering as well. Couple of balls from Nokia didn't really even kick up. It was just staying below the knee rule of the pads, and that was quite surprising. And that's the one thing which India exploited in the second innings. And at that very point of time, if India would have lost a couple of wickets, India would have capitulated for 120, 110. But then, how important was this knock by Hardik Pandya? We did speak about Dinesh Karthik, but Hardik Pandya, the maturity he showed, the way in which the way in which he took on Tabrez Shamsi, the way in which he calculated his risk.
I think Hardik Pandya, as I said, I think it was there was some I was facing some connectivity issue, but I think Hardik Pandya, the partnership that Hardik Pandya and Rishabh Pant started off playing, that 40-45 runs partnership laid the foundation for somebody like a Dinesh Karthik to come in the last 5-6 overs and just go after the bowling. And I have to say that Dinesh Karthik was extremely lucky. They missed a run out opportunity when he was at zero. I mean, if he would
Yeah,
have got out at that stage, we never know what the total would have been. But again, another
yeah,
very important, crucial knock from Hardik Pandya. I think this sort of knocks will give him a lot of confidence, and it's just been like he has consistently been providing these crucial knocks of 30s, 40s for Team India in this series. In the first game, we saw that cameo. In the last game, he played that 21 ball, 31 run knock, and today again a very crucial 46 runs knock. And since India are not sort of they are playing Akshar Patel and Harshal Patel at number 7 and 8.
yeah,
So we know that there is not much batting left, and Dinesh Karthik is playing the finisher's role, coming in at number 6. So we know that there is not much batting left once Pandya gets out. If he comes in at number 5, and today India
yeah.
lost 3 wickets rather quickly, because they lost the 3 wickets at 6.1 overs. So I with 83 balls left in the innings, I think Pandya realized that he had to play that sort of anchor's role and go through the transition of going through the gears throughout the innings.
Right,
And I think he managed to do that really well. And I think there was some again questionable decision from South Africa. I mean, all the injuries are not helping them. When Parnell,
right,
Kagiso Rabada are crucial members of the team, especially Rabada, and the two of
right,
them missed. I think both Jansen and Nigiri, they filled in the role, filled in their boots really well. But again, I don't understand the 6 bowling options, because they just don't have enough depth in the batting. If you
right.
put, I would have understood it if they would
I
have
think
gone like they would have given. Yeah,
Sandeep, you're facing some issue again. Maybe you can rejoin and see if that
yeah,
works
I'll
out.
just try and rejoin. Yeah,
Yeah. And meanwhile, as Sadimani mentioned about how important those knocks were, and now those 6 bowling options also are going to be some of the questionable decisions taken by South African point of view, because Keshav Maharaj coming back for that fourth over, though he bowled well, I thought at the very point of stage it was unnecessary. One could say there were two right-handers in the on the crease, and it was a tactical call, but it did backfire ultimately if you look back at it. And when you had an over extra from your extra pace ballers, you had Andre Nokia who had an extra over, you had Dwayne Pretorius who could have been brought in that particular phase, because once that Keshav Maharaj over was set out, it did lay the momentum, it did set up the momentum so well for South Africa, for India to launch from there on, and it was one of the moves which backfired quite bad for South Africa if you look in hindsight. And maybe Temba Bamua's captaincy has been top notch throughout the series, but these are some of the possible areas which they could improve and look back at it. Now the series is going to the decider. It's not that India has won the series or South Africa has won the series. It's in the balance. South Africa looked very comfortable in the first 2 matches, and India looked very strong with their bowling attack in the next 2 matches, because India's bowling was a concern for India in the first couple of games, but then Harshal Patel, like so Yuzman the Chahal coming into the party, Avish Khan. We'll have to talk about him. Let's talk about him now. Let's talk about Indian bowling, as I already mentioned. How impressed are you with someone like an Avesh Khan? Because this was going to be a series where he was going to be given the opportunities. He was going to be tried and tested in different conditions and against a quality South African side, one must admit. And he has stood up, and barring the first couple of games, and even the first couple of games, there were a couple of drop chances which could have possibly given him those wickets. But since then, he's looked like a much more confident bowler since he's been on the wicket tally. He's looked like he wanted to go out there and take wickets. And today was classic Avesh Khan kind of bowling performance, isn't it? Hard legs. The
yeah.
pitch also suited him, and the ball was rushing onto the batters, and he was in total control of his lengths, and he was troubling the batsmen throughout.
Yeah, definitely. I think this was the sort of pitch which Avesh Khan on any day would have loved to bowl at, and especially that over where he picked up those 3 wickets. I think it was long due. I think he bowled really well in this series without much luck. Because he had been bowling well consistently, but he was not getting those wickets, those 2-3 wickets that he deserved. Bowled really well in the first game, bowled very well in the second game too. In the last game, he just went on to consider few. But again, in today's game, what a comeback! 4 wickets for 16. I think in that last over that he bowled, if he would have sort of tried to bowl more on onto the stumps, I think he had a chance of getting that 5 wicket haul, because Nigiri had no intention of playing those short pitch deliveries.
Yeah,
But to be fair, the 3 wickets that he picked up in that over uh, were all coming off those hard hitting lengths where he was bowling on the shorter side, hitting the batsman around the shoulder height. And
yeah,
one of those balls just crept up and hit Marco Janssen on his helmet. And I think that just
right.
had to do with it just adapted his momentum, and he just got out in the next delivery. Not that South Africa looked to be chasing, like, at any point of time they never looked to be chasing this down. I think 150 at this pitch was a good enough score to be able to defend it. 140, 145 would have been par.
I mean, it was one of those pitches where you were not sure as to what could be the ideal total, but I thought India paced it pretty well. That's why this batting performance from India just stands out even more because of the kind of the pitch and the conditions which were given at this very point of time. Because Dinesh Karthik's knock was now if you look back at it, it's invaluable, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because the pitch, if you look at it, it was one of the toughest pitches to bat on. And if you look at the series perspective, I thought Cuttack was a tough pitch to play, but this was as tough as Katak or even tougher because ball was gripping, ball was staying up and down, and it was also climbing from a very weird area. The steep
yeah,
bounce of course there, so it's never easy in T20 games when you have all these conditions against you to score runs. And Dinesh Karthik was looking like he was batting on a different planet on a different surface altogether. And same thing with Hardik Pandya as well. So for Dinesh Karthik especially, he came in and he got going, and so that's why you will have to give credit to him because Hardik Pandya at least spent considerable amount of time in the crease. Then he got going. So yeah, that's where you find this innings was the difference between two teams in terms of the
yeah.
momentum shift, in terms of the way in which more India were able to go back into the dressing room feeling much more confident as well. Let's talk about the major question over here, right? So we have a lot of questions regarding whether Dinesh Karthik should retain his position in the team because now you're going to be having Surya Kumar Yadav back in the team. You're going to have Virat Kohli, who will definitely be a switch to Shreyas Iyer, and Rohit Sharma, who's going to switch to Ruturaj Gaikwad as well. And KL Rahul will come in for Ishan Kishan. Maybe I'm expecting that to happen, but you never know. But let's talk about this very switch about how Dinesh Karthik should retain his position in the team and whether should Rishabh Pant be replaced in the T20 squad. There are two thoughts to it. There are two thoughts. One is the tactical side of things, where you need to have a left-hander in your top six. You do not have one. You do not have one, and other teams could use it as a leverage to use more left-hand and leg spinning options against your team. The other thought is consistency is what matters, and when a player is able to pull your team out of these kind of situations, he's been doing it quite consistently in the last couple of months and last 3 months for whichever team he has played. That really shows that he's got it in him. He's experienced. He's been in this kind of situations and he's got the range as well. So, which school of thought do you really support, and what do you think should be that call India should make in the T20 World Cup squad and in the 11 especially?
I think it's too early. It's just one innings that Dinesh Karthik just played for Team
No,
India.
it's
I
not
know he
one
has.
innings. It's been
No, I know he
three,
has
four
done it for
innings of
RCB. He has done it for KKR. He has done it for Delhi Daredevils in the past. He has done it for Team India when given opportunity in the Nidahas Trophy. I know he is knocking at the doors for the team for the selection. But again, you will not. I don't think the selectors are going to bet against Rishabh Pant, especially because they are sort of looking and pushing him in this leadership role. And I don't think dropping him is a question. So I think
So,
Dinesh Karthik,
so if Surya Kumar Yadav comes back, you're going to see Dinesh Karthik sit on the bench.
yeah, unfortunately yes, but we just cannot do. I know that Rishabh Pant's statistics in T20 internationals does not do him justice to the cricketer that he is. I mean,
But
the
my
average
question
and the
to
strike rate.
Mani, at this very point, you want to win a World Cup, and Dinesh Karthik at the finisher's role, India has been really struggling to find a finisher for quite a long while, especially in T20 cricket at least. And now you have a player who's been able to pull your team off and pull your team out of these big holes and who's been able to finish games quite consistently. And not just that, his range to hit fast ballers towards the death overs. It's not a thing which is very common in India. In India, you have players who can hit spin, you have players who are big hitters, who have that tag, but then Dinesh Karthik's range to hit from from deep point to fine leg, that's a range which you really need in a finisher, isn't it? Because then the ballers are going to are going to think a lot more, because you're going to play with their lengths. Your range is even more wider, because once you don't have that range, then ballers are in the leverage to ball to a set plan. But then Dinesh Karthik has got the range to actually play the reverses, play the scoops, take you over long on, take you over long off. So that's a great trait to have in a finisher as well. So that's my question. And Rishabh Pant has been having this weakness of these balls going outside off the. He does not have the range in the offside as well. So do you reckon in T20 cricket that's going to be an important trait, and looking at the team selection and putting the playing 11 as well?
No, I mean, I completely agree with whatever point that you are putting forth, and I totally agree that Dinesh Karthik deserves a place in the side. But it is very difficult. I think if Dinesh Karthik has to play in the side, it has to be either for somebody like a Surya Kumar Yadav if he is not 100% fit, or somebody like a Shreyas Iyer will go out anyway once Virat Kohli comes in. So I think Dinesh Karthik will come in and will play at the number 6 slot only if Surya Kumar Yadav does not play in the team. I don't see Rishabh Pant getting dropped because, frankly, we all know about his game that he has not been playing those outside of stump deliveries well. This was the fourth time this in all the games this series he has been dismissed to balls outside of stump. He has been trying to hoik it and not being able to do so, and he has not been having those 30s 40s that somebody like a Dinesh Karthik has been doing it for Team India, for RCB consistently. I agree to all that, but having said that, I think in the pecking order, the BCCI, they highly rate Rishabh Pant because of his X factor, because of that X factor that he possesses, because he can just change the complexion of the game in a matter of 1 or 2 overs. We know Dinesh Karthik can do that too, but they have been grooming Rishabh Pant. They have been putting a lot of faith, trust in Rishabh Pant, and Rishabh Pant has been performing. Like, Rishabh Pant did not have a bad season at the IPL, even though
No, I'm not talking
like,
about IPL at all. And if you ask me personally as well, I would say Rishabh Pant in my team. But I
yeah,
know it
it's
pains my
very
heart to say
harsh
that
on
Dinesh
somebody like a
Karthik will
Dinesh
have to sit
Karthik
on the
to,
sidelines for the World Cup.
yeah,
But I also see Surya Kumar Yadav being used in Dinesh Karthik's position at number 6. I've seen him play in that role very well for Mumbai in domestic cricket. Not for Mumbai Indians, I'm talking Mumbai in domestic cricket, and even for
yeah.
local leagues. If
And
Mumbai
for
Premier,
KKR, he used to come in at number 7 for KKR.
number 7 for
So
KK has done that previously. He's got the range. He's got similar range as Dinesh Karthik. He can play all across the ground. He's got all the shots as well. So a direct switch for Dinesh Karthik could be Surya Kumar Yadav, because Surya Kumar Yadav has been doing it quite consistently for India.
yeah,
And when you have riches of plenty, it's tough to choose. And for me, I would prefer form over reputation. And if it has to be form, I would say Dinesh Karthik over Rishabh Pant, because Rishabh Pant has got a long rope for 3 years now in T20 I cricket, and his strike rate and his average is just bad at this very point. His strike rate is just 120, and his average is close to in the lower 20s as well, which is quite disappointing considering the stature he carries. Quite
yeah.
disappointing considering the reputation he has brought in, because he came into the fray as a T20 player, the X factor which he used to carry to change the matches. But even if you consider all those factors, him as a test player
And
has been
just
great.
to
Even
add
in
on that
ODI,
point,
he
I
has been
think very disappointing. Yeah, I just to add on that point, I think it's very disappointing, especially because the position he bats at, he comes in at
yeah,
number 4. I mean,
yeah,
you have to have a very stable one of your best players at number 4, playing at number 4. And Rishabh Pant has been playing at number 4 for India for a long time now, and he has not been doing justice to that role in the T20 international format at
right.
all.
I mean, we are talking about Rishabh Pant because of the ability he's got. We've seen that about Rishabh Pant. We know that he's a genuine match winner. He has won matches for India single-handedly. If you talk about Test format at least, and even in one-day cricket, he's shown glimpses of what he can potentially do, because he's got that adaptability. He's got that change. He comes at number 4. He changes the momentum of the game, and that's what he won in Test cricket and one-day cricket especially. But if you talk about T20 cricket, I just feel that he's not cracked that particular code in T20 cricket as to how he should be batting. It's either too slow or either he wants to bat too fast. He does not have the middle ground where he can, fasten his chase or actually accelerate at a very point of time in setting up a score, or even in the chase as well. But I believe it'll come to him with gradual time. It's too early to
Yeah.
judge him as well. But if you're talking about close to 40 games is played for India at T20 cricket, and if you're still unable to crack the code, then
No, we have
you
been
know
harsh on somebody like a Danushka Gunatilaka for averaging 18 after 37
exactly
games.
my point. Because
So
then you're
we
talking
might as
about
well be,
someone like a Sanju
yeah.
Samson being left out of the squad as well. Because Sanju Samson carries similar reputation. Sanju Samson has got just maybe 10 games in his entire career, and you've already judged him that he cannot play international cricket because of his lack of consistency. Then you have to
Yeah.
bring the same code for Rishabh Pant as well. Then you have to judge him on similar lines as to Rishabh Pant
And I
also has
think
to be
it's really early days, but I think Rituraj Gaikwad is also getting judged because he did not have a very good IPL. Just one innings out of the four. He had
Rutraj
a start in the
Gaikwad,
first game.
I think, I mean, I'm making a very bold call over here, but he's got serious flaws with his technique. I've seen him
Yeah,
play for India A. I've been following Rutraj Gaikwad for the last 4 years, even before he came to the IPL level, because he made his name with the 50 over format where he used to play consistently for India A. He used to score runs, he used to rack up runs at a very consistent rate as well. But then, if you look at the overseas tours of India A, he's always struggled when the ball moves quite a bit, and that's possibly one area where he has to work on as well, because he's an opener in T20 cricket. Maybe any other position you can get away with those flaws, but as an opener, you will be tested more often than not. And if you have genuinely good ballers like the likes of Nokia, you have the likes of Rabada, the likes of Trent Bolt, they will expose you more often than not. And with Chennai Super Kings, what used to happen was, I felt Fab Duplessis covered a lot of him. Fab Duplessis used to take on these ballers, and he used to be on the non-strikers end. But here, I think outside the off stump, he'll have to work a little bit, especially against the moving ball. And his technique is him planting the feet very early to the ball, and him trying to push at the ball hard as well. Because I feel he's using hard hands. You can always feel that he's not comfortable. He's not one of those players like Kane Williamson or Joe Root, where you feel that he's caressing the ball. He's just using the soft hands and putting the ball in the gap. He's always pushing at the ball, which makes him a candidate for edging it to the slips. And that's one of the areas he's been getting out very consistently. If you look at the last 2 months as well, even for Chennai Super Kings, even for India, this was one of the other examples as well, how he's pushing at the ball a little harder. We spoke about that about Virat Kohli earlier on. It's still we do speak about it. But Rutraj Gaikwad will have to prove, because if he has to maintain that consistently, if he has to be in international cricket and not being found out, if he doesn't want to be found out, he'll have to improve that particular game of his, and or else it's going to be very tough for him. But let's move on from that. Let's talk about Sri Lanka versus Australia, because now the series will be decided in Bangalore on Sunday. We'll be back day after tomorrow to talk about this, of course. Sri Lanka versus Australia was a very interesting game because Australia, Sri Lanka just scored 220 odd, and of course the game was rain affected if you look back at it. But Sri Lankan bowling was quite impressive, isn't it? Because they not have Hasaranga, they had
yeah.
Lage, and they had Tikshana, they had Chamika Karunaratne who stepped up. We all know about Chamika Karunaratne. He was part of the KKR squad as well. He did not get a game, but he was selected in the IPL for the very reason that he's got that mentality to change games. He's handy with the bat as well. What do you make of Sri Lankan squad? Because they look like a very potent spin attack, right?
Yeah, Sri Lanka has always been a very potent spin attack, and it was very interesting to see that they won defending just 210 in the absence of somebody like a Wanindu Hasaranga who had, I think, picked up 8 9 wickets in the last 2 3 games. So it's very interesting, and even if you see the scorecard, I think Thikshana also did not pick up any wickets. So it was just the pace from Chamika Karunaratne and Chamira. I think Dushmanta Chamira flew under the radar, but he bowled magnificently well. He was very economical, picked up 2 wickets. And another thing that has really interested me from the trio that Sri Lanka has, if Hasaranga plays, that is Vela Lagage, Dunit Vela Lagage. Vela Lage. I don't know how that is pronounced.
We're very sorry if Sri Lankan fans
Yeah,
are watching us. We're just trying to find how to
yeah.
pronounce his name correctly.
I think
But
it's
yeah,
Vela Lage.
Bella Lage. Yeah, I think it's something like
Yeah.
that.
So Velalage in the last game too, when Australia had lost 7 8 wickets, and Maxwell was playing with the tailenders, Richardson and only Hazelwood was left uh, in the bench. That time too, I think with 4 5 overs remaining, they trusted Velalage with the
To
ball
the next
rather
game
than
again.
Thikshana. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they
I mean, there was a
trusted.
slight issue again. There was
Yeah, I was saying that
there's no
even in
issue now.
that game where just 4 5 overs were remaining, in the death overs, they were going with Velalage instead of Mahish
Right.
Thikshana. So that just shows that they
Yeah.
are trusting this youngster. And even in the last game he picked up 2 wickets. In the second first ODI he picked up 2 wickets, and we have had two good games. They Sri Lanka have taken Australia to the wire since the second T20. I think only the first game was a one-sided one. From
I thought
then
even the
onwards,
first game, first ODI was very close. If you look at it, we were covering it live. It
yeah,
was a watch along towards the end where we were talking about the game as well. I thought that game as well, if there was one wicket which would have fallen, Sri Lanka would have been right in that game. Sri Lanka
yeah.
could have gone on to win that game as well. But it was the Maxwell brilliance which helped Australia to stay in that game and win that game eventually. But if you look at Sri Lanka, there are a lot of positives about their team, and especially the batting would be one of the concerns still. But the bowling side of things are very, very promising. Now, if you look at the future, they have got some really good bowlers coming up the ranks as well. And you saw that, Patirana do well in IPL. You saw now, Hasaranga, who's been the revelation in all round department. Verelage, who's doing well, is coming up pretty well. Then they have someone like Jay Vikrama, who has done decently well in the recent past. Then you have Mahesh Dikshana, who's a mystery bowler, who's been doing quite phenomenal if you look at all two formats, in one day format and also in T20 as well. But now batting department, they'll have some worries, but it's going to be a matter of time when they find a couple of batters to really take them on. Like I'm not saying that they'll find someone like a Mahela or a Sangakkara, kind of a stage of a batter. But then if they can group someone in the coming years and fill those two positions, I bet this team is going to be a world beater of a side, as we have seen Sri Lanka dominate previously in World Cups and in ICC tournaments. I bet they can also do it because they've got the potential. They almost take all the boxes. They've got the courage in the players as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they come up.
And I think they'll be very happy that this sort of the senior, more experienced players are stepping up. In the second ODI, we saw somebody like a Dhananjay De Silva, whom they have persisted with for long now. Kushal Mendis scored that 35-36 runs knock. Even Dhananjay De Silva scored that 35-36. So they
Right.
have enough talent in the middle order. Somebody like a Rajapaksha, uh, and there is also Asalanka. They have Nisanka opening for them. There is Gunatilaka in the ODI format doing really well for Sri Lanka. So they have enough resources. They just have to
Yeah.
find how to use them more in a more right manner. I think that is the problem. And in
Absolutely.
conditions where Sri Lanka are favored in their home conditions, they have been doing really well. And just to add to that, I think Australia, to beat Australia in an ODI, be it even in Sri Lanka, is a huge feat because Australia are playing their full strength squad. There is David Warner, there is Aaron
Yeah.
Finch, Labuschagne, um, Steven Smith, Maxwell, Stoinis. So they have a full fledged squad. And they are beating a full fledged squad. I think Pat Cummins, Mitchell Stark was there in one of the games, and I think then he got injured. There is Hazelwood. So all in all, I think Australia are not taking it easy, and still they are finding it difficult to win. Just to that just shows that how Sri Lanka are comfortable playing at their home ground, and they are the favorites. Definitely, they are the favorites going into the third ODI because they had a very close game in the first one. They won the second one, and in the third one, it's all to play for.
Absolutely. I mean, we're facing some connectivity issues, at this very point. It's been a very glitchy kind of a day when it comes to our stream today. Never mind that, guys. It happens one of those days where the stream has been lagging quite a bit. End the stream right here. I think because StreamYard has been facing an issue. What I'm seeing, StreamYard has been facing some kind of an issue. I hope StreamYard people, if you feel people are listening, just look at it ASAP so that we can come back and stream better. But nonetheless, thank you all for joining. It was a pleasure talking to you. And as we end, we're also going to be talking about England's world record total of
Yeah.
498, which they closed up against Netherlands. It was one crazy game of cricket where everybody was playing like they were playing in their backyard. And it was 498, guys. It's not even a test match I'm talking about. It's a 50-over game where they scored 498 runs and the loss of 4 wickets. And their test team is back in England, but their one-day team, the white ball team, consists of Liam Livingston, Josh Butler, David Malan, Phil Salt. It was a complete carnage what you saw there in Netherlands against Netherlands. One could say they were a weaker opposition, but they didn't show
Yeah.
any mercy to them at all. They just targeted them. They wanted to score that 500. They're very close. It would have been a historic moment in one-day cricket. Now you are upping the bar way too much for 400s to be even a norm in the coming years as well. So It's not gonna be a new thing when in another 3 4 years we're gonna be talking about 400s being a par total in one day cricket. And if you're seeing scores next to 500, I think 500 will be the next 350 as well very soon. So this is where the world cricket is heading to. This is where what you want. Many people would love to see it, but I really feel for the bowlers at the end of the day. But nonetheless, thank you all for joining. It was a pleasure talking to you all. Pleasure taking into questions as well. Some of the questions we got in the chat box as well. Take care and have a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.